For the first time in Patrick Mahomes' career, the Chiefs are going on the road for a playoff game. Let's talk about it.
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Welcome into a live edition of the KC Laboratory presented by Emprise Bank, member FDIC, our partners in Possible here at KC Sports Network. A day one for us here at KCSN. It's been great working with them since its inception. And it's been great working with my two pals. First, find them on Twitter at Matty_KCSN. Matthew Lane. Hi.
Hello, bud. I think we're due for another Twitter handle change just to confuse you. I think I need to put you through that ringer yet again. You've got this one down completely, Pat. So we need to change that up. So to throw a curveball at you. And I mean, realistically, here we are. We're sitting here. We all just got done watching the Buffalo Bills beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. We know who the Chiefs are playing. We know when the Chiefs are playing next week. Everything's locked and loaded. We're all ready. We're ready to see how this plays out now, Craig.
Yeah, it was a nice, chill couple of days of watching football, knowing that the Kansas City Chiefs were going to play whoever they were and having some semblance of confidence that it's not really going to matter who they're playing. And, you know, of course, you get to this point in the season, you got 4 teams left in the AFC. They're all going to be good. It is very rare that you end up with a team at this point that doesn't deserve to be there. But, yeah, I'm ready. After watching the Buffalo Bills, you know, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, and I think we were all rooting for, we were rooting for the Steelers to pull that one off just so the Chiefs could, you know, maybe get another home game.
Another home game.
You know, that would have been nice. Create a little chaos there. But what looked like was going to be a blowout by the Buffalo Bills got extremely interesting. The Bills were forced to play 60 minutes of football when it looked like they may not have to. They might get to pull some starters. They had a battle-tested game. It went not down to the wire, but they had to close that game out late. They beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 31-17 after going up 21-0 early after some really horrendous miscues from Pittsburgh. And the Bills survive after a little bit of a comeback from the Steelers. So here we are. Chiefs will be traveling to Orchard Park. They will be playing the Buffalo Bills in what should feel like Miami weather compared to what they just endured here at Arrowhead just a couple nights ago, Matty.
Yeah, I mean, kind of regardless of what, I guess, Buffalo's weather sends out there, that'll be a nice change of pace. And then we get what was becoming a classic playoff matchup year in and year out until essentially last year. We get the Chiefs-Bills matchup. And this, not always, but like it was a big deal every single year leading up to that point. You had the Bills who were on the rise trying to get over the hump versus the team that was kind of at the top of the Chiefs. It's been a couple years since we've gotten that in the playoffs. So it's nice that that's going to be coming back around now. It is a fun matchup between two very fun teams with the two best quarterbacks in the NFL. It is always a super fun game to watch no matter when it plays. So like as a fan of football, this is great. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I wanted the Bills to win. I'm not happy the Chiefs have to go play the Bills in Buffalo. I don't quite wrap my head around that. I would much rather have the easier matchup and get to have the Chiefs play at home. That said, it's not an unwinnable game, and it should be a fun one to watch with better weather than what the Chiefs just had to endure against the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, and I mean the weather part of this, at this point, it doesn't matter. Like it's going to be cold. You're playing January football. This is what playoff football looks like. The weather part of this doesn't really matter unless it snows again, and then the city of Buffalo might shut down. So we got to be careful.
So yeah, they'll wait till there's good weather to play.
That's true. That's true. But no, I did think it was very interesting. Bills did not escape this one without some attrition. Their linebacking core was already, taking a massive blow with not having Matt Milano there, one of the best linebackers in the NFL. They lose Terrell Bernard, a guy that had stepped up and played pretty well in Milano's absence as well. They lose him. He was carted off and air casted, like not a good sign for them.
I will tell you, Craig, some early indications from reports. X-rays were negative. Good for him.
Okay, that's good.
X-rays are negative for him. They believe it's an ankle sprain. obviously, with how he exited, you would still think it's probably a long shot that he plays. But there are early returns seem to be positive for Terrell Bernard early. Anyways, please continue.
Yeah, no, that's good to hear. I hadn't heard that part of it, so that's really good to hear. But they got a little beat up, and
for sure.
That's one of those that on a short rest week for them, which again, Monday to Sunday isn't brutal by any means. Teams do this all the time, but the Kansas City Chiefs are going to have 2 days of a rest advantage over the Buffalo Bills. I watched that game. I watched them get banged up. I watched the way that Kansas City was able to kind of keep everybody healthy, take their foot off the gas a little bit with some of the stuff that they were doing. I just think that the Chiefs, obviously the 2 days of rest matter way more than the weather does. But I think that just even if they were playing on the same day, I think the Chiefs would have come out ahead from an injury standpoint from the way that they came out of that game.
I mean, yeah, if you're looking at some of the early injury indications, Balin Spector got hurt. Christian Benford got hurt. Sean McDermott says there will be consideration regarding bringing in a new punter this week because Sam Martin pulled a hammy on his field goal. Like they endured a lot of injuries. In here's another report: Terrell Bernard crutches and walking boot in the locker room. So I still have a hard time believing that he is going to be able to play. The injury list here's the full injury list for the Bills. Terrell Bernard had an ankle. Teron Johnson actually left that game with a head injury. Connor McGovern had to exit the game for at least a little while. I don't know if he came back in with an abdomen injury. Stephon Diggs got hurt with an abdomen injury. Christian Benford knee. Balin Spector back. Leonard Floyd shoulder. Micah Hyde right shin. You saw him get rolled up on a little bit. And then Sam Martin with the hamstring. That is a lot of injuries that they just endured. And, there's 2 lines of thinking, right? Like, obviously, Monday to Sunday turnaround isn't the toughest, right? There are, this game had got moved another day. That could have been much more, difficult for this team to try to navigate. But at the same time, recovery from an ice game like that also might, a really cold day like that, I would much prefer to be in the Chiefs situation, have those 2 extra days. Because, rest edge is something that, there are some statistical belief matters. And the Chiefs have a significant rest advantage when it comes to this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like a bye week or anything like that, but the Chiefs will have a couple extra days after they were resting some starters the week before. Like, the Chiefs very much so will be a lot more rest. Their starters will be a little bit fresher. Their starters should not be quite as banged up as what the Bills are, especially when you are going through the entire injury list and you consider Gabe Davis couldn't play, Rapp couldn't play, Rasul Douglas couldn't play. Like, they were already missing significant pieces. They suffered more in the game. It's a 6-day turnaround for them. Again, not the worst. It's completely doable. Teams do it every single, a team does it or 2 teams do it every single week during the regular season. So it's not the end of the world. But I think when you expand it beyond that, it's something that Kent likes to talk about a lot. The Bills have been in must-win games. They've been in the playoffs for going on, 6 weeks now, 7 weeks now. They've had to play every game, can't lose it all the way up until now. I don't know if that means I don't know if I'm buying into that as them being fried as much as I think Kent does. I just think that they do have guys that are getting banged up. Guys are playing through absolutely everything they can right now. So when you see guys that can't go 1 week or that have to leave a game that gets close, that matters. The Chiefs should be fresher. The Chiefs should have their legs under them a little bit more. The Chiefs are coming off of one of their best performances in a while. Right. So the Chiefs should be feeling pretty good, riding kind of high where they are. They do have to go to Buffalo, play a very good team, play a team that a lot of people have picked to be the AFC's representative in the Super Bowl. So it's not an easy matchup by any stretch, but there is some things about this, this particular matchup that do favor the Chiefs that are not part of home field advantage.
Absolutely. And I think that you see that in the way that our pals at DraftKings have positioned the line. It's -2.5 Buffalo. That means that Buffalo is favored right now. I'll be curious to see how much that moves over the next 24 hours here. One of those that I could see get bet down a little bit more, favoring the Chiefs. They're trying to obviously figure out where the smart money is, when they can get, about 50-50 money on stuff. And right now it just seems like maybe this is a little bit of a tease and it's going to get bet down a little bit. I do think that there is something to be said for we have to win. It's a win and in scenario that you've played in for 6-7 weeks, basically, and then you undergo a game getting shifted, and then you undergo some injuries, and you jump out to a big lead, and a team kind of claws their way back into it, and you have to go pretty much full out for 58 of the 60 minutes that you played in that game. Whereas the Kansas City Chiefs, they got to take the foot off the gas in that game. So there's a number of things we're going to get into, the schematic stuff. We're going to get into all the breakdown stuff a little bit later this week, but it obviously we couldn't get through this podcast, this specific one, without having some conversation about this matchup that just perpetually seems to occur in the playoffs now, and the Chiefs just continually win it.
Yeah. And by the way, the Bills have been playing for their playoff lives essentially since the last time that these two teams lined up. And there was a 5% win or chance that they were going to win their division when they rolled into Arrowhead at 6-6. They had very low likelihood that they were even going to win their division. And if they don't win their division this year, they're not in the playoffs right now. That's what people don't realize. Like, they had to win their division to make the playoffs. They were fighting for their playoff lives. And so they've been doing that for a long time. I have a couple other thoughts real quick about the Bills, but we're going to do that right after this.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
Okay, so I wanted to bring this up before we moved on too far either. I'm sure we'll talk about some of this. Obviously, like, the in-depth breakdown for this game is going to come later in the week. But, I think there's a couple other interesting things that are worth mentioning about the last time that these two teams played. Obviously, there is the infamous illegal formation or neutral zone infraction, whatever you want to call whatever Kadarius Toney got called for, that had no impact on the play. But here's another fun thing I think is kind of interesting. This is from Jody Newsom. She quote tweeted and just reminded everybody of the inactives that the Chiefs had the last time that these two teams played. Isaiah Pacheco, Drew Tranquill, Donovan Smith all did not play in that game. And obviously, Donovan Smith, I think, had a pretty solid performance this week. I know that the challenge was not maybe as strong as it was against the Bills, but the Chiefs they had some key players out, and they're going to enter this game in Buffalo healthy. I'm trying to think of any, like, Brian Cook is like the big loss that they've endured, and outside of that, they're in pretty good shape health wise.
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs definitely are getting back more help from that game than the Bills are going to be getting back from what they were missing that game or from what they've lost since. The Chiefs theoretically should be the healthier team that should have more answers in terms of players that are getting added to the field, to the roster from that game till now to fix the woes that they had. It was also Nick Bolton's first game back from coming off the IR. Hopefully there was some getting legs under him. He played a lot better against the Dolphins this past week than he did in that first matchup back against the Bills, which is to be expected, right? So if you get a completely different Nick Bolton, you don't lose Drew Tranquill on the first play, you have Isaiah Pacheco, you get better play from your left tackle, although I think Wanya Morris was fine in that game. I don't think that's what that was not like a big gap, game there. So yeah, there is reason to hope that just, kind of having guys back for this Chiefs team will be better. And then, like, there's always the addition by subtraction in the wide receiver room. So, like, they should be better than they were that week versus the Bills. The thing is, and we're going to talk about it later, but it still feels like the Chiefs have to play a better game than the Bills to win. This is not like in years past where you feel like if these two teams play equal level games that the Chiefs are definitely going to win. That's been the case every other year. If they both play an A game, the Chiefs are going to win. I don't know if that's the feeling this time. If both these teams come out and play A games, I don't know if that means the Chiefs win for sure. So, like, they do need to outplay the Bills. They should be in better position than the Bills are from everything not related to the 60 minutes of football. But once that whistle starts, can they outplay the Bills on the field? We're going to see. And we're going to talk about that later this week as well.
Yeah, I also find it interesting. Josh Allen took care of the ball today. He's a little bit of a roller coaster. If that's the case, he might give the Kansas City Chiefs a couple. I also don't think that Josh Allen's going to be trying the fake slide with the Chiefs secondary bearing down on them. That's not going to happen. Justin Reed might end him if that happens.
That was ridiculous.
And then I think the slide call, Josh Allen is like, I'm a big Josh Allen fan. He is the biggest flopper at the quarterback position in the National Football League. It's not even close. He was begging for the call before he even finished, his head bouncing off of the ground.
Okay, so I agree with that. He's a flopper. I also agree that he fake slid to run for a 52-yard or whatever it was touchdown. Okay. That said, the way Patrick Mahomes runs, and it's not on purpose, but just the way he runs also causes nonstop fake slide or fake run out of bounds opportunities because he runs so goofy.
Yeah, it's because he's got short strides.
Because he's like, it's like he's walking, he's leading with his feet and he's like leaned back a little bit.
Yes. Yeah, he gets so many extra yards from defenders stopping their play in the field and him continuing than any other quarterback. So, while I'm jesting about the fake slide, it 100% was whatever. Go ahead and do it. The Chiefs have benefited not from a fake slide, but a same result with Mahomes, who has the weird run that confuses defenders every time in the open field.
It's wild.
I just want to say, Josh Allen has not had a game or back-to-back games this year that he hasn't turned the ball over.
Mm-hmm.
So that keep an eye out for that. That is something we're going to talk a lot about. The Chiefs can't commit turnovers. The Steelers did today. That was why they weren't in that game early. Chiefs can't do it, obviously, but Buffalo may not play perfect this coming Sunday. It's one of those, again, Josh Allen's a little bit of a roller coaster.
I think one of the dirty secrets about this this winning streak for the Bills is they haven't played perfect and they haven't played great. Even they've had some close calls against some bad football teams too during this stretch too. The Steelers, they throw a pick in the end zone. Kaiir Elam makes the play of his life. And actually, I'm not even sure Kaiir Elam saw the ball. If you go and watch the pylon view, it's like you're not even sure Kaiir Elam actually really saw the football entirely. The Steelers made a ton of mistakes in that game, and it was still a 1-score game in the fourth quarter. Like, I don't know. It was
with Mason Rudolph.
They fumbled in Bills territory.
It wasn't that close.
They cut it to 1 score. They did. It was not that close.
But it wasn't that close. It was a tougher game than it looked like it was going to be. It was
Correct.
not. It was not that tight. And I also want to say, I said Rasul Douglas earlier in this podcast missed this game, which he did. He's told Tim Graham by Tim Graham on Twitter in the locker room afterwards that he thought he was healthy enough to play and he felt the Bills held him out. He plans on playing next week versus the Chiefs. This isn't like a complete game changer, but their cornerback room is very thin. Getting Rasul Douglas, who they traded for because their cornerback room was very thin, is big. He's a good corner that's made good plays for them. So it does sound like he will be healthy. We talk a lot about the rest. Like, hey, the Bills might have been anticipating beating the Steelers and kind of getting ready for this Chiefs game too. Like, we can't completely rule that out. So, it's a tight game versus the Steelers, but this wasn't like a nail biter.
No, it wasn't, but they had to play 50 minutes of football, 55. Which was good to see. I mean, that helps. That helps as the Chiefs are trying to get ready for this game. But yeah, I'm really excited about this one. I think it's a great place. It's a great story. It's a great place for Mahomes' first road playoff game. I think it's a great story. The last playoff game between these two was the 13 seconds game. It's hard to believe that, right? Yeah. It's hard to believe that, but it was. I just find that kind of crazy. It just feels like they've played playoff games before. It's just every time the Chiefs and Bills play, it's an important game. So yeah, let's move on. You guys want to talk a little bit about what we saw in this Chiefs Dolphins game a little bit more, because obviously I think part of the reason we're all feeling good and the vibes are pretty high about the outlook of this team is because I think the Chiefs did some really good things against the Dolphins. Now it was Dolphins are beat up, and you want to take some of that with a grain of salt because the pass rush was non-existent for the Dolphins, and the Bills might be able to get home with 4. They're going to be able to get home with 4 a lot better than the Dolphins did, that's for sure. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. The vibes are still really high for me out of that game and make me feel that everything is in front of this team, the way we hoped it was in August.
Yeah, I mentioned it. This was one of the Chiefs' most complete games of the year, if not of the year. Like defensively and offensively, they played very good. I know there's some stuff that leaves a bad taste in our mouth on the offensive side. So we can start there real quick too with the offensive side. There's some stuff that leaves a bad taste in your mouth coming from that game. They left a ton of points on the field yet again because they couldn't put the ball in the end zone. I think there's some reasons that we can talk to why the red zone offense may have struggled in that game. However, it struggled all year, right? It's we can't pretend like they're only, the field. Here's the big thing. One side of the field was very bad. Neither team scored a touchdown on that side of the field. It looked like the Chiefs were particularly conservative when they were going into that side of the field, which they apparently were every time they had the ball in the red zone almost, right? And so they were playing a little conservatively on that side of the field. They don't get any points on the board. That stinks. They've had this trouble all year long. It's that you file that in the back of your head as a little bit of an issue going forward. But here's the good news. The Chiefs had 406 total yards in this game on offense. That's their most in a game since week 7 against the Los Angeles Chargers.
Wow.
If it looked better, it's because it was. It looked better because it was a lot better. Oh, and by the way, that includes the 3 deep shots to Mecole Hardman, which were all very catchable, that probably put points on the board, definitely add extra yards, a couple Travis Kelce drops in there that could have, added extra stuff. They left a lot on the field. And again, they have all year, don't get me wrong, but it looked better. Everything looked cleaner.
Yes.
All the misses were a lot closer. They weren't constantly shooting themselves in the foot. So there's stuff to be happy about.
Maddie, I think you said it best, and I think it was during the post game. Maybe it was just with us talking, but
of course,
never mind. We're gonna take a break. No, I'm just kidding. You said something to the effect of everything in between the mistakes that this team has made all season looked so much better. I think that's such a great way of putting it. There was still a ton of mistakes that this team put out together. You still had the bingo card. You still checked every box of every way something could go wrong, but everything in between that just looked way, way, way better across the board. And I think that was a really good way that you put it. So there's a compliment to you. There's your first for the year and maybe the only.
No, I do want to touch on a couple super chats real quick here. First one from Andrew Lee. Thank you, sir. We worried about Tucker wearing Bills gear in the post-game show and now playing against Buffalo.
True.
No, not at all. That's KC Buffalo Company, proud sponsor of KC Sports Network. So, no, they're good people out there. Sticking with the offense here, Shane Falco, big thank you for the super chat here. Saying red zone success will be key, as we just talked about here, but even better would be to actually be able to score touchdowns outside the 20. Feel like we need to connect 1 or 2 over the top to win. That was the thing that I think has been the most positive, not just this week, but over the past couple of weeks. You're absolutely right, Shane. You got to hit on those opportunities when you get them, because defensive coordinators, as we've been saying all year long, are not respecting them. They don't care about them because it's MVS and Mecole Hardman that are going on these deep shots. And frankly, they're not making them pay. Now, I am curious to see if the Buffalo Bills try and change things up a little bit, because Kansas City Chiefs over the past 2 weeks have thrown arguably more deep shots. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. I should have pulled them. It's definitely more deep shots than they probably had thrown in the previous 5 games, if not more than that in the past 2. It's one of those that I look at, and this is a concerted effort by this offense to get the ball vertical, to try and open up space for Travis Kelce, to try and open up space for Isaiah Pacheco, the lighter boxes and stuff like that. Try and make some of these bubbles, these slants with Rashee Rice, give him space to, kind of run and really deliver the hammer in the secondary. That's the focus here. So, yes, it would be nice to get one of those. Even a 22-yard bomb down the sideline for a touchdown just outside the red zone will be awesome, just to kick another safety out of the box. But I love that they're trying. I love that there is a focus on it. And while we may be very frustrated with Mecole Hardman quitting on so many different plays, he's the only guy that's actually getting separation over the top. And that sucks. You got to keep trotting him out there. You got to keep doing that, even though probably not going to go in a positive way for you. You hit on one, literally just one. And now all of a sudden defenses are going to play you way different.
I want to talk more about that. There's a lot of discussion, discourse, debate to be had about that. We're going to take a break real quick and tell you about DraftKings Sportsbook. They're an official sports betting partner of the NFL and the NFL playoffs, and they're bringing you an offer that will help make the playoffs electrifying. New customers can bet $5 on any game and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Early lines are the Chiefs are underdogs going into Buffalo. I believe the Lions around 2.5. As we currently sit. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code KCSN. New customers can bet just $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code KCSN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/football for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. We're going to take a break. We'll be back right after this.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
Guys, we talked a little bit about the players that were absent the last time that these two teams played, and we talked about the inactive list. But there was also one other player that Craig was just mentioning that was on the IR the last time that these two teams played, and that's Mecole Hardman. And we kind of had this conversation. We've been having this conversation the last couple of days, you know, between us and the DMs and in our group chats and all that kind of stuff. Just about, you know, the impact of Mecole Hardman, the vertical threat, the impact of throwing the ball down the field. And, you know, I think I might have said it in the post game. I don't remember if I did, but I think they got to keep going at it. I think they kind of got to keep trying. They kind of got to keep throwing a few of those down the field, because you're absolutely right. There's the best way to solve your red zone ailment is to just score outside the red zone. Shane Falco was 100% right. Just score outside the red zone. And the Chiefs were real close in that game and to busting a couple over. And I don't know if the game plan will be the same for the Bills the way it was Miami. I don't know if what the Chiefs put on tape and the risk of that happening is enough to scare those teams either. You know, because I know that there's been some inconsistencies, but if you are a coach who is worried about getting beat deep, who can maybe explain away just some of the slight inconsistencies on the horrendous weather, on, you know, the lights. I know they haven't really hit as many in recent memory, but they've shown an ability to maybe hit some of those in the last couple weeks. I don't know. I think either they got to keep trying. They got to keep going to Mecole. I think Mecole should still be part of this rotation moving forward and be part of the offense the way he was the last week.
Yes, because at some point in time, you do have to hit it. It's just there's a difference between getting open every now and then and dropping a very easily, very catchable football like MVS does compared to just not trying. There's a big difference in those two things. And I get it. Maybe he didn't see the ball in the first one. And the second one, he thought he was held. But like the optics, and this is not a 1 game sample size for Mecole Hardman. This is a 5-year sample size, right? There's a 5-year sample size of him giving up on routes, stopped running too early, of a guy that just can't adjust to a football. He's a very unnatural receiver in terms of running vertically and tracking a football over his shoulder. He doesn't get side to side. He doesn't track it well. He doesn't see it well. There's a lot that goes into it, but the effort, I think, is the bigger issue. I don't need him to dive. I just need him to not stop, right? That's what you need him not stop is a good start. So here's the thing. If you're going to stop on these routes as consistently as he was in that game, I don't know how you do it once and then do it again and again. That blows my mind. I think on one hand, you have to keep throwing to him because he's the only guy getting open downfield. His speed allows him to just run by guys. MVS can't just outpace anybody anymore. He gets a long stride. He has to attack leverage. Maybe it's usually on a safety. It's usually splitting safeties. It's not just dusting corners anymore like Mecole Hardman can do. He gets open. I think you have to keep him in for that reason. He's the guy that does it. He's the one player on the team that maybe pushes teams back into too high shells so they don't keep adding extra guys down underneath to defend Kelsey, to defend Rashee Rice, the things that you actually want to do. Mecole Hardman gives you that level of your offense. You just got to try. And that is the most frustrating part, is the effort on some of it. And when I say try, I don't mean like, I mean finding a football. I mean, you have to be able to look over your shoulder, see a football, and start to go towards it. And we're just not getting it. Now, here's the good news. Buffalo Bills, late afternoon, a lot easier to catch a football there than it is in Kansas City at night. For some reason, Arrowhead at night is the worst place in all of NFL to catch a football. Nobody knows why. You can guess the lights. You can guess the red on the night sky. I don't know. Nighttime at Arrowhead apparently is really bad, with the only place in a time slot of being over 10% in terms of drop rate in the NFL. The Bills, actually, I think a late afternoon game in Buffalo had enough data to make the chart, but everything else is pretty much the mean. They're pretty much right on average of everything else, which sits between 6 and 7%. Hey, there's hope.
Yeah.
I mean,
you said to go 30% decline in drop rate, whatever.
I'm not going to go that far, because it's been how many years? 5 years now of watching this. I can't remember who said it in the KCSN Discord, but we got one over here from Nate Dogg. Imagine B-Enemy talking to Mecole Saturday. I can imagine it, because he did it for 4 years. Like, he did, and it never really improved. Like, you never saw him take that next step and do that. And honestly, like, again, we've talked about this for the past couple of weeks. The bar is so low with some of those sorts of things that if Mecole catches one of long bombs, we are doing backflips. We are celebrating like that. That's it.
You got to quit promising us backflips, Craig.
Yeah, you've been writing checks your body cannot cash.
The Chiefs' offense isn't making me cash them, so I'm going to keep writing those checks. Getting by for free right now. No, it's one of those that I need to see it happen. Not just for, the offensive potency's sake, but so Travis Kelce isn't going to have somebody, basically on his back all game long, so that Rashee Rice has room to run, so that Andy Reid can get into some of the concepts that made this offense so dangerous last year when they were being so efficient in the intermediate areas of the field. It was because defenses were still trying to respect the deep ball a little bit more. So I don't need 4 deep overs for 3 touchdowns and, 190 yards passing or anything like that. I don't need that. I need 1. I will take a 45-yard vertical route. Like, that's it. That's all I need. Just something to make, make Jordan Poyer think twice about stepping up into the box. Just make the defensive coordinator think twice about playing that single high coverage, because right now that is the only thing that could stop a well-oiled Chiefs offense from operating and moving the ball right now.
All right, so 2 thoughts. I know it's like a broken record probably to some degree with Mecole, but what do you what do you think the point of emphasis is going to be for him this week? And one of the points of emphasis is going to be for this offense this week. Like, I know he can kind of be a little absent-minded, I think, with some of the details, but at some point, like, the tape is the tape. He had to have felt what that impact could have been on this team. I feel like you will get a better, more focused version of Mecole Hardman in these situations. What that means, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be good enough for him to come down with 1 or 2 of those. But I do think that you are going to see a better version of Mecole than you saw this week, because I think the point of emphasis will be for him. Like, let's get this let's get this taken care of. Let's be better, right? But also, like, do you think the Bills are just going to let him run past them either? Like, I think you saw the impact of him.
Yes.
I do. Yeah.
Why wouldn't you? Why would you?
I want to hear the counter argument. Yeah.
Why would you risk letting Travis Kelce get one-on-ones or having a a backup defensive back cover Rashee Rice based on anything you've seen this year? Why would you take those options over letting Mecole Hardman get one-on-one with the corner and see if your corner can hold him down?
And it's not that, like, I'm not talking about, say, with one of these like one-on-one situations. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, that vertical element can still be felt enough to help underneath stuff, especially if you're playing against zone coverage. You can run stuff underneath them. The Chiefs were running a lot of stuff underneath verticals against the Miami Dolphins, and that's part of the reason that they were having some success this week. And so I still think that element is going to do enough to help kind of push things up the field enough to create more space for the Chiefs' two best players in the passing game, in Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce. So, like, I feel like they're still going to have to honor it to some level, especially, like, they're going to be able to create space underneath that vertical stretch, even though we can have the discussion on, like, they can't ignore it entirely. They're not just going to stay flat-footed on everything and let them run right past them all the time. That's not going to happen. And I think people are a little bit more mindful the last couple of weeks, even though the Chiefs didn't hit them. They're probably not happy with the idea of letting that happen to them either. So that's just kind of, and, you know, you can make the argument that the teams are just going to continue to let the Chiefs try to fizzle out in the red zone too. So I don't know. There's a lot to think about, I think, if you're the Bills still.
I mean, like, yeah, I think you do it, and whether the Bills make not even just the Bills aspect. Mecole Hardman's got to be in there because he does at least make teams think about it. There's a huge gap, and we talked about it a little bit. I did a film breakdown for the KCSN Discord looking at Mecole Hardman snaps and just what his speed on the field does. You can't leave a safety to pick up Mecole Hardman and expect that safety to be able to turn and run with him, which allows Hardman to run a deep over, which allows him to run a corner route in a way that MVS or Justin Watson can't, because the safety can't stay flat-footed on Mecole Hardman. Like, you just can't physically do that. Now, I don't know if a team at this point is going to respect Mecole Hardman enough to just play too high all the time to try to put the umbrella back on the team. But when we're talking like individual matchups and how you play number 12 running at you down the field, whether you're a corner or a safety, you do have to play him a little differently. And I do think that can open up more stuff for him specifically. I think they need to connect on stuff before they start to open it up for the rest of the players. And, like, I know they were close. Maybe the Bills see that too, and they say, hey, we can't let them hit that this one time. But, man, they still didn't do it, right? And, like, they were close, but not that close, right? It's not like any of the balls even hit his hands. So, like, you know, they weren't as close as they should have been probably to hitting some of those. So I'm interested to see how it plays out. I do think you got to keep Mecole Hardman out there. MVS played less snaps. I don't think that it's a surprise or random that they all of a sudden had a guy getting open on some of these deep shots a little more frequently than earlier in the year. So, like, you got to keep Mecole out there. You got to keep throwing them. It's just, you need to hit on one or two of them to really change the dynamic of this game. And if you can't, I don't know, it gets a little tight.
Well, and I said this, I think last week, maybe the Chiefs have to hit on a couple of these for them to win a Super Bowl. Like, that's going to have to happen. I said that before this Dolphins game, that they've got to hit a couple of these down the field if they're going to win a Super Bowl. I genuinely believe that. And they're going to, I think they probably do have to hit one of these this week if they're going to ultimately beat the Buffalo Bills. And by the way, we're going to be at a watch party in Weston, Missouri at Holiday Distillery for this game. If you listened last week, obviously we had that, we had to cancel last week's party. We will be in Weston, Missouri on Sunday at the Holiday Distillery. Mission Taco Joint will be providing the tacos. There will be holiday drinks. There will be games and prizes as well. We're going to give a raffle ticket to everyone that shows up, have a chance to win some really cool prizes. Some more announcements, I'm sure, will be down the road there. The doors are going to open at 4:30 and kickoff is obviously at 5:30. So come hang out in Weston, Missouri with us. It's going to be a lot of fun. We can't wait. So just, yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. There will be opportunities for you to sign up if you check out all of our social media. I'm sure I think we sent an email out already. If you're on the KCSN Substack, if you subscribe to that, you probably got an email as well for that. So yeah, sign up and come hang out with us. It's going to be a ton of fun. So Craig, anything else on offense that you wanted to talk about before we move on? Or
let me try and go back to your points. I had some stuff, and y'all were just.
I'm sorry, I had to make sure. I really excited to talk about
ad break, and I see how it is. See how it is. No, I think the one that I wanted to get out there that stuck out to me was I do think some of the intermediate success that we saw this week for Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce is because Andy Reid had those backup Dolphins linebackers in a blender. Like there was a lot of miscommunication that occurred at the second level there. They were passing guys off to nowhere. It was a lot of miscommunication that was occurring out there. If for whatever reason, if Terrell Bernard's not able to go, Tyrell Dodson's out, Balin Spector's hurt, guess what? There's going to be a lot of potential miscommunication at the second level again. We saw what happens when Andy Reid gets to feast on some of these guys and trying to make them trust the communications out there. If, for whatever reason, and again, not hoping for any injury here for Terrell Bernard, if he can't go, now all of a sudden there's going to be a lot of guys that haven't played significant snaps this year that are going to be out there passing routes off to guys that they haven't played with before. There might be some street free agents added to this linebacker room, and just got done with all the, the Dolphins and everything like that. So while there still may be intermediate success that comes this weekend without a vertical passing game, I'm going to chalk more of that up to Andy Reid just manipulating these guys and forcing them into those mistakes than maybe, hey, Mecole got deep and now everybody's open underneath.
Terrell Bernard and also Teron Johnson. I mean, if Teron Johnson's in concussion protocol, he's got 6 days to turn around. And typically in the NFL this year, there's not been a ability to get, like, these guys have not turned around during the regular season. We'll see. The concussions aren't as severe in the playoffs, apparently. See Matthew Stafford last night. But yeah, there's a lot to address there in the secondary. And I think the Steelers actually did a pretty good job of kind of, attacking that intermediate area with all those injuries in this game here that we just got done seeing. So it's definitely something worth paying attention to. One other thing on the Chiefs offense, and we can move on to defense. I thought they did such a great job trimming the fat in their offense. And that's part of the other thing is, like, I really want to see them, as far as just personnel wise, I think continuing to ride with the personnel that they rode in this game and the usage in this game. I think Kadarius Toney should probably just sit this one out. I don't really want to see him back involved in this offense. I think you ride with the group that you have, and I like the group that they have. And I don't want to. I think this is the kind of group you build the momentum and you kind of ride the rest of this thing out with, personally. So that's just my opinion. I think that's where I'd like to see that, and that's partially why I'm continuing to clamor for Mecole. I think there's an opportunity here or there for him to make a play as well. So I think I just ride with this personnel grouping. Moving forward, should we talk about the Dolphins or the defense, or do you have anything else, Matthew?
I mean, we should talk about the defense. We've gone pretty far into the show. The only other thing I had offense is, like, Trey Smith was fantastic. I think Trey Smith's got, not hate, but, like, people have said this year that Trey Smith hasn't had his best year, maybe taking a slight regression. He was phenomenal in this game against the Dolphins. The one place where the Dolphins were still strong on the defensive side was at D tackle. Trey Smith didn't make it feel like it. He was moving Christian Wilkins in the run game. He held up really well in the pass game. So, like, that was the good Trey Smith. That's the Trey Smith the Chiefs need if they are going to continue to attempt to run the ball throughout these playoffs. Hopefully that continues against another big challenge in Ed Oliver, who has had good games against him in the past.
All right, let's talk about the Chiefs defense now. Craig, we'll start with you. Vibes, how you feeling after that game? Farther removed.
They're still good.
Is that it?
No, they're the best defense in the postseason right now. Cleveland Browns were terrific during the regular season, came out there and got their asses kicked by the Houston Texans. The other really good defenses that we have seen so far this year have not held up their end of the deal at all. The Chiefs are the only football team that played this weekend. Now, granted, the Baltimore Ravens have been just absolutely terrific as well, but people were throwing the Dallas Cowboys in the hat there, and they got their asses kicked just as badly as the Cleveland Browns.
That's gross.
The Chiefs were playing a better offense than either one of those teams on the regular season. The numbers were better for the Miami Dolphins. And Houston here at the end of the year looks pretty damn great. But this right now is a defense that they can lean on, is a defense that they can rely on, and is a defense that the Buffalo Bills don't want to see. Buffalo Bills are really good at running the football. This Chiefs team is going to be able to commit more assets to running the football than they have in previous years because their secondary is elite and they have to be feeling good about their ability to stop some of these weapons, be able to stop some of the stuff that the Buffalo Bills are doing. We got to see it this weekend. Yeah, L'Jarius Sneed wasn't playing, solo with no safety help against Tyreek Hill. Apparently they left that for Trent McDuffie. But they did such a great job of shutting down dynamic weapons on the outside, guys that you don't want to play, one-on-one man coverage with no help over the top. They did such a good job of shutting them down time and time again and making life difficult and getting Tua off of his reads. Again, like we talked about in the postgame, they were in hell. That offense was in hell. And this is the only team now that we have seen translate their regular season success on the defensive side of the ball to not just step up in the way that we talked about with Steve Spagnuolo, but even just maintain what they've done. So it's real. Like, I don't think that there's any bluffing or anything like that was there. It's real what the Chiefs defense is doing. And and as we see these other elite defenses from the regular season go down, it just makes me appreciate what Steve Spagnuolo does every single postseason even more.
It's really hard to see this because every year the Chiefs defense does fun stuff, but it takes them a while to find their footing. And then they get a little better and they kind of hit the playoffs as this good defense. Then the playoffs roll around and all of a sudden it goes from the Chris Jones defense, or you want to say the Snead defense, or pick out these players and that's who the star is. And it becomes the Steve Spagnuolo just thing that you can't even describe it. It's just the Spags thing. The issue now is they've been so good all year. They started the year so hot. There was a little lull in the middle of the year as it seemed like they were kind of dealing with a couple injuries, fixing some rotation stuff, playing a little bit more bland so that as soon as the playoffs hit, it could become this Spags thing again. But now the thing is the defense has been so good all year. I think it's easy to forget how much better he gets in the playoffs. I think everyone's been watching this team all year. And I don't mean Chiefs fans, but everyone's been watching this team like, oh, Steve Spagnuolo is great. He's doing all this great stuff. Like, one, yes. But also, what if Steve Spagnuolo hasn't been going crazy yet? What if he's not giving you the Spag special game plan specific, schemed up stuff yet, and it's still coming in the playoffs on top of the defense just actually being that good? Early indications? Maybe so.
Yep.
Maybe so. So we'll see this next week, what they have cooked up. I think Spags, we're not previewing the Bills game, but it's hard not to draw these comparisons. The last time they played the Bills, I thought he did a great job there. I think he'll do another thing even more here, especially with the healthier team. And again, especially if he can turn it up, but the stuff they did to the Dolphins was ridiculous. And the Dolphins quite literally couldn't function. They were throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage and still not completing every pass, barely getting positive yards on play. It's just,
I will say, hey, look, if those plays had more zip on them, if Tua, could throw a ball with the zip, it still wouldn't have mattered. They had him shut down. They had him dead to rights still, regardless of a bad throw or not. I'm sorry. That just.
Oh, no. Yeah, no, they absolutely did. And they were getting pressure when they rushed forward. They were getting pressure when they blitzed. They were doing everything right. And the Dolphins offense was, for the large part, healthy. A couple injuries to the offensive line, sure. But for the large part, it was healthy. The Dolphins and the Bills offenses are entirely different. They're not the same problems, but they were both very good offenses throughout the year. That's got to make you feel pretty good coming out of this game plan that said, hey, we know how to make these Dolphins team play left-handed. Well, I guess right-handed for them. They did so, and it looked like a quarterback was playing right-handed.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think one of the things we haven't talked enough about, appreciating this, is there's so much continuity on this team. So many returning pieces in the secondary and the back seven of that defense, I think is kind of crucial. You see some of the, guys coming into their own, from a leadership perspective, from a communications perspective. I think that's all super valuable as far as, being able to put more on their plate earlier, and we talked about last year, this team won with a very young defense, a lot of first and second year players. And I think you're seeing the byproduct of all the continuity and guys just coming into their own too, and this week, I think you saw some guys just play incredible. I think you guys had I think some of these guys, I think Nick Bolton had his best game of the season. And this was like the perfect kind of Nick Bolton game too, especially in the conditions. But I thought he had his best game of the year. L'Jarius Sneed was, he had an all-pro game as he has so many times this season. I thought outside of the one play with Trent, I think Trent was awesome. There's so many. Charles Omenihu. You can point to so many different guys in this game and just they were awesome. And it's great to see them peaking at the right time. So yeah, it's just the vibes are immaculate right now. And I think that's why everybody's kind of feeling it with swag surfing, and it's fun, man. Anything else on defense, Craig?
I mean, I just keep doing what they're doing. That's the thing. It's really nice to just sit back and know that you're going to have a pretty rock solid group on that side of the ball, time in, time out, And so, yeah, the Buffalo Bills look really good and they're really dangerous. And there's absolutely the chance that they come out and they do what they've done to a Steve Spagnuolo defense before. It's not like Spags has shut down Buffalo in the past. He's got games where he's played well against them, but there's other games that he hasn't. And so it's just one of those that this Chiefs team has gone through enough turnover, has seen enough bodies out on the field on defense that I don't foresee another big kind of thing. That 13 seconds game, Tyrann Mathieu went out very early in that game. I think people forget that. That was an offensive explosion. After that, the middle of the field was wide open for Gabe Davis for the rest of the day. That's not going to happen with this team. I don't see that. Yes, Nick Bolton was awesome. He was terrific. He played at an all-pro level against the Miami Dolphins. If Nick Bolton 4 plays into this game, and I'm using him in the same light as Tyrann Mathieu, leader of the defense, guy that matters a significant amount for this defense, if he goes down, I still feel okay because they've got a Drew Tranquill. If Drew Tranquill goes down, they've got guys behind him that have played those snaps, that have played at a high level. It's not just, hey, we're counting on, I forget who mentioned it earlier. Maybe it was Kent, maybe it was Maddie. We're not just saying, okay, Chris Jones, go take over. We really need you to just go take over. You are the only hope that we have to, kind of kick this over and stop this offense. There are so many pieces of this defense that are so good and need more recognition. And this is the chance right here. They go into Buffalo. They play the kind of defense that they are. They've got every chance in the world of winning this game. And then after that point, we're going to see a lot of guys on this defense that are starting to get a lot more recognition, not just in the rest of the postseason, but next year when it comes time for award seasons. This is the one. I feel like this is the one that everybody's going to sit down nationally and just be like, oh, damn, those guys are legit, especially after the offensive explosions this weekend.
Yeah, I think everybody watched the Chiefs and the Bills play this last time. And I think what a lot of people saw were not the Bills necessarily having their way with the Chiefs, but I think people are going to remember the very few drives that were kind of easy, right? That were kind of easy for the Bills because they found a good game plan using James Cook out of the backfield, stretching horizontal. They did nice things, and I bet they will in this game, but that's what people remember because the Bills won. If you get to the end of this game, the Chiefs win, it's going to be because Steve Spagnuolo's defense probably did some really crazy stuff again. It did what they did to Josh Allen a couple of the times that they've played. Not every time. To Craig's point, the Bills have often had answers, but in the playoffs in previous times or in other games, Spags has slowed him down. He's thrown a lot of stuff at him.
The Bills only scored 20.
Yeah. No, that's exactly it. I think people skip over that when they think back about that game. They skip over the fact the Bills didn't really score that many points. Everybody talked about Kadarius Toney, but then they talked about Josh Allen and the Bills starting this march towards the playoffs being, this team that kind of kicked off this run for them. I think this defense is playing at such a high level right now. Everybody knows what they're going to be. The Bills are great. They do a lot of awesome stuff. They don't confuse you as much as the Dolphins do pre-snap to post-snap. They don't do quite as much motion. They don't do quite as many different looks and all this different stuff. And when you see a defense go out against the Dolphins and they're all on the same page on every single level over and over and over again, that matters. Like you're not going to just confuse them by what you're doing pre-snap. They're not going to be beat because you tried to flex a guy out late or you hit a pre-snap motion to a 4x1. Like they know how to react to everything that you were trying to do throughout the game. They have guys that are making plays on all the levels. It's not just Chris Jones. George Karlaftis is making plays. Charles Omenihu was insane in this game. All the linebackers had played their part very well. Drew Tranquill should still play more, but it is what it is at this point in time. The secondary has handled the loss of Brian Cook well because Mike Edwards is always in the right spot. It seems like it's just everybody plays well. They play well off of each other. I do think that this defense is – everyone knows they're good. I think that everybody still sees them, though, as a step down from elite defenses. And I don't know why, so hopefully that changes it.
I think and you saw Bolton and Tranquill on the field together earlier in the game last time, or this last week too. So I think they might pull it out a little earlier.
They're doing it. It's there.
I think exactly. So like you might get a little Bolton and Drew action here sooner than we think. I wouldn't be stunned if we see it this week. I think there's plenty. Do you guys want to do stickers, slaps, and spirits? We haven't done that in a while. I want to give so in game ball. If the chat wants to throw a game ball out there, I know I didn't call for one, but by all means, go out and throw a game ball. I don't think anybody's gonna pick mine. My helmet sticker is going to go to Leo Chanel, kick returner.
Dang.
He's the only
specifically kick returner.
He's the only guy. He's the only guy that returned kicks for the Chiefs in this game. He had both of them. I don't know if they were going after him, but hey, he scooted a little bit. You know, it's kind of tough to be from that middle position to try to get yardage. He still got 13 yards. Put the Chiefs in some good field position there. Also down to punt later in the game. Now, sure, the ball was basically stopped, but special teams maven Leo Chanel gets my helmet sticker. Let's go butt slapping a good job from Matthew. What is it?
What? Okay. I'm going to go with Mike Pennell stepping in for Derek Nottie, who gets an injury. We get Mike Pennell. Now, I don't think the Dolphins were necessarily challenging the middle of the Chiefs' defensive front with their run game. That's not where they're aiming to go. They're trying to hit it outside. But as we talked about in the preview, everything in this game was about turning outside runs back inside. And when you do that, you have to have somebody there clogging up space, making tackles. Mike Pennell, in only 8 defense snaps, tied Nick Bolton for a lead. I mean, it's only 2, but still tied Nick Bolton for the lead and stops, which just means, tackling the running back for a non-positive play, right? And so I thought he played really well. He ate his blocks. He did a good job when the runs were turned back inside. He was there. Mike Pennell stepping in, late season signing, stepping in a big way for the Chiefs. And we'll have to see about Derek Nottie's injury going forward for him. And he's rocking number 69.
That's true.
That's a butt slap number if I've ever heard of one.
No, and on top of that, every time he makes a play, you know it. Because he is strutting. He is letting you know that he made a play. I love it. I love it so much. I see who the game ball in the chat is going to be, and I was hoping it was. You guys were going to take mine. It was kind of 50-50 there. It's L'Jarius Sneed for a whole ass bottle of bourbon here. Like, it has to be. And frankly, I'm afraid to give it to him because I'm afraid he might shatter it while I'm holding it. He has been so physical and a tone setter for this defense that they needed somebody to do that this year. They needed somebody to step up because too often we have sat back with these Spagnuolo defenses and we've said, man, they need a little bit more of an edge. They need a little bit more of a guy that's going to step up and be a tone setter. Justin Reed certainly was brought in to try and be that, and he has been. I'm not trying to take it away from him, but this defense goes as L'Jarius Sneed goes. So when he's up for a game, when he's up to play against a Tyreek Hill, everybody's up to play against that team. Then you flip over to this week. You think he's going to be up against Stephon Diggs? You think one of the guys that's going to be yapping at him all game long that beat him earlier this season? No, L'Jarius Sneed's going to be up for this game.
Did Diggs play in that game?
Did he? Maybe I'm conflating with previous games. Maybe he did.
No. It was a joke. He did. He just got shut down. That's what we're going.
I'm so far off my game that
there was a little curve on that one.
Right over my head.
There was a curve on that one. My bad.
Yeah. Whole ass bottle of bourbon.
24. 3 catches for 24.
For L'Jarius Sneed for just being a first team All-Pro in my heart.
Rashee Rice had a longer catch in this game than Stephon Diggs had in combination in total the last time the teams played. Rashee Rice is the game ball winner from the chat here on the show. 8 catches, 130 yards, 12 targets, and a touchdown. Should have been 2.
Sorry, I just want to say real quick, if you guys want to read a little bit more about Rashee Rice on the KCSN Substack, there's an article coming to you guys tomorrow morning that's about, Rashee Rice's development and his importance to this Chiefs offense in the current iteration of it, and why he's so important and why it mattered for why it looks so promising against the Dolphins and how he was a key part of that. So that's kcsn.substack.com. It will be there for you tomorrow morning. So you gotta make sure you slide on over there and get that sub in.
And he should have had 2 touchdowns. But they called one back on a block in the back penalty in which the blocker was a little bit shoved into. So it's okay. That would have been the only touchdown in the icy end zone, too, and it would have been a throw at the line of scrimmage. It is what it is. Anyways, make sure you're subscribing to the KCSN Substack. Make sure you're signing up to come hang out with us at Holiday Distillery in Weston, Missouri. It's a road game. If you're not going out to Buffalo, come hang out with us. It's going to be an awesome time. There's going to be some limited seats available, so make sure you're signing up early. It's going to be a lot of fun. Come hang out with us. It's going to be great. We cannot wait. We cannot wait to be watching this team play in the divisional round. It's going to be a fun one. The first one where Patrick Mahomes will be on the road. So we're really excited about that. That's going to do it for this episode of the KC Laboratory. Thank you all so much for listening, watching, supporting us. We appreciate you. We will catch you later for a game preview episode.
Road Mahomes.